Welcome to the Modern Eco Village. We are building a community in the south of Spain for 500 households, a complete community focused on health, sustainability, and community interaction. Our goal is to create a green oasis where we can upgrade different aspects of our lives, get closer to nature while keeping the modern comfort and technology. So listen up. Welcome to the Modern Eco Village podcast. I'm Alisa. I'm the community manager at the MEV, and I'm sitting here with Stephen. Who are you, Stephen?
Construction. Well, I'm the project manager, I beg your pardon. So yes, we're talking about the reservation process today, right?
Exactly. So that is the thing that people have really been excited about, because this is, I think, the first thing that feels really tangible. They're allowed to choose which house they want to live in, where exactly on the plot they want to live. So I think that's one of the most exciting steps in this whole process for people.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And we've been working on it, both of us, quite a lot. So I've been working more on the legal side, and you've done a great job kind of actually writing it all down as a 7-step process. So we're going to try and go through it for everyone to explain the different steps in the process, right? So
exactly, to make sure that everybody feels like they are able to make the best decision, because this is going to be a really important decision for people, and we want to make sure that people get all of their questions answered. They know exactly what to do in this process and what to expect.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll kick off with step one. Okay, and step one is choosing your home.
Yes.
So it might sound an easy thing to do, but there's quite a few elements that you need to consider when you're looking at that. One, obviously, is you need to decide what type of home you want. So whether it's a standard villa, a plus villa, a 2-floor villa.
Or a modular house.
True, sorry. And once you've done that, you then need to look, because we've actually tried to maximize the build area that we have on every plot on the site. So we have a 19 to 20% build area, which means that if you want to buy a standard house, it's 200 square meters. So therefore, a standard plot for a standard house is 1,000 square meters.
Yeah.
So each plot has been customized to that house type. So if you say, I want a plus villa, it's 250 square meters, you will have a choice of, say, 6 plus villas on the scheme. So choosing your home also means choosing your plot. So it's also important to decide what you want in terms of a lake view, a mountain view, close to the communal areas. So all of that goes into choosing your home. Obviously, when you choose your home, you'll probably come to us and say, okay, I like MU8, MU7, MU whatever, plot 5, whatever, and we will then confirm whether that's available. So we might also suggest other plots. If you say, I want a lake view, you could say, well, what about MU4, plot 10 or something?
Yes.
So we might be able to suggest other plots to you, but once you've chosen your plot, we can then start drafting the reservation for you. And then I think the next step, stage 2, is actually matching your home to your plot. So that's kind of what we were talking about. So I don't know if you want to say anything a little bit about that.
Yeah, I would love that. So one thing that I think is sometimes a little bit difficult when they only get the master plan, because we will be sending a master plan also to everybody. Some people have visited the plot, but there are some of our members who have not ever been to our plot. So it's sometimes a little bit difficult to make sense of what a master plan really means in real life, especially because everything is terraced and it looks very different. I mean, every time we're on the plot, we're like, oh, this is a new area we haven't really seen yet. So I just want people to know that we will be there. I just wrote a whole guide on how to choose exactly your plot, where are the views, and so on. We also have some little plot overview videos that Janko started making that I think look
some of those
amazing.
are really good, actually. The little drone shots and stuff. Yeah. I like was it Instagram where the show, was it MU something plot 10 or whatever it was?
MU 6 plot 11 or something.
11 or whatever it was. That was cool.
Yeah. So. Yeah, exactly. So. And then some people say they want to fly down here. They want to see and maybe choose between certain plots around the views. We just had a couple here. They said for them the most important part is the the sunset or the things like that. So that is something that you can do, but also like Stephen just said, if you have questions around it, we will be here, and I will be hosting 2 meetings where we're just question answering about what house to choose, what is the view going to look like, and so on. So we will guide you all through this process. That's really important.
I know you're doing a great job, because I'm getting lots of questions as well where people are saying, oh, well, I can't decide whether it's this plot or that plot. Can I have a picture from this one and a picture from that one and a drone shot from this? So we're doing our best to support all of that, all those requirements, because it's really important that you get the right plot. And also just to let people know that we're not going to be really draconian. If you pick, MU6 plot 5 or something, and then you later change your mind, we can accommodate that, obviously subject to other plots being available. So there is some flexibility in the process, and even if you signed a reservation agreement, we can be flexible and change if you need to. So
there might be a little non-refundable fee there for our groundworks and things like that.
I mean, it depends obviously when you change it, but early on, what we're seeing in the process is people are going back and forth. I can't decide between this plot and that plot, and we've been able to accommodate that. So we will continue to do that we're being as flexible as we can. We know it's important that this is your future home, and we'll do everything we can to try and make you feel comfortable. So that's step 2. Okay.
Exactly.
And then step 3 then actually gets into the kind of the legal nitty-gritty. So we're breaking this process down into 2 sections, right? We have a reservation process, and this is for a lot of Spanish legal reasons, which I won't go into at the moment, but we're breaking it down into 2 steps. The reservation process, and so we sign a reservation agreement, and we will draft a non-binding reservation agreement with you guys. And then later on in the process, once we've done a whole bunch of exploratory works, groundworks, discussed options and whatever, we'll be talking then about a purchase contract, which is a binding agreement to buy and build your house. So the reservation process then basically says, okay, I'm interested in buying this plot, and so the reservation agreement will come with a master plan. So at the moment, all of the plots are not actually registered in land registry, in what they call catastro down here. So what we're doing is we're showing each person that the plot that they've picked, and we circle it in red, so you get a master plan with the plot circled in red. And we also then give you a specification for what you're buying. So if you're having a plus villa, all the things that are in the villa, like the kitchen, the bathrooms, the sockets, the tiles, all of that sort of stuff.
There's so much that goes into it.
It's all, and then we're also giving them a specification for what's going on in the garden. So we'll explain, you're getting a pergola, and you're getting terraces, and you're getting stuff outside, and grass and hedging and all that sort of stuff. So all of that's in the spec document. And then on top of that, even though it's a non-binding price at this point, we will give you an indication for how much that villa is going to cost. The way it's worded at the moment in the reservation contract is X amount plus a little bit, because the plus is, so all of the prices that we've reserved or we've advertised so far have been from 650, from 750, whatever it is. So the from means that there are hidden expenses that we don't know about yet. So these could include things like ground conditions. They could include optional extras that you might want. It might be that the site is very steep, or it might be flat, so there'll be different prices. So when you sign the reservation contract, we'll give you an outline of what the price is going to look like, with a margin to say that it's going to be plus 10%, plus 15%, depending on what type of plot you've picked. We also then request at that point, depending on whether it's a villa or a modular home, we will request a deposit, and that deposit goes towards actually acquiring the land that your plot is, or your house is on. So at the moment, correct me if I'm wrong, the deposits for the house are 30k, right?
Exactly, for the villas.
And 10k for each module. So if you're buying 3 modules, it's also 30k, 4 modules, 40k. So that's the reservation and deposit. We then request that you send obviously the deposit to us, and that's obviously then used to do a bunch of the exploratory works that we talked about. So things like we do a geotechnical survey of the site, we actually measure out the site, so we know exactly where it is, and then we get geolocation, so we know exactly where the site is. And part of the process is we'll then register that with land registry or cadastro, and then that plot then becomes yours. So that's step 3.
Yeah, and I think one thing that is important to mention there, people ask me a lot, so if we don't go forward, we're only signing the reservation contract, but we're not signing the actual house purchase contract later on in the process, will that, for example, 30K, if I reserve a villa, would that be refundable or not? And with what you just said, there are some groundworks and the land registry and so on, so part of it
there will be a small amount of works, certainly no more than your membership fee. I mean, sort of like 5 or 6K, depending on where you are, that may not be refundable. But what probably would be refundable is if we can sell that on to someone else, it's entirely possible that you get all your money back. So, we will do everything we can. We're not trying to be draconian again, as I said. All we're trying to do is to get this to be a community enterprise, and so we'll do everything we can. If you have to pull out for justifiable reasons, we're going to be doing all our best to try and make sure that you get all your money back and sell it on to someone else, and we will facilitate that process. Yes,
exactly. I think that's one of the main things
I know
people ask.
That's a concern for everyone. And then also, we should also point out, though, that if it doesn't go through for any other reason, there are several other variations. It might not go. I mean, it may not go because the customer doesn't want to proceed. It may not go because something happens on our side, and that something that happens on our side could be our fault, or it could be a third party fault. So if it is our fault, obviously then we would refund you the money plus interest, so there would be a penalty payment on our side. But if it went through it didn't go through for some reason which wasn't related to us, we would still refund the money, but no penalty payment. So you're covered in a lot of areas. We've also been advertising to people, which is I think is an important point, that you can actually take out a bank guarantee to protect your deposit as well, or any amount of your deposit. So, but that would probably cost you an extra 10% of whatever you're trying to protect. So, if you're putting down a deposit of 30,000, you could protect that in the early stages with a £3,000 extra payment, which might be something that you might want to consider.
Okay. And I think one thing that you mentioned that I thought was really smart to do is you don't have to do it with the whole amount, right? Yes. You can do it with the amount that you feel comfortable with.
And it could be, and very genuinely, it could be that you say, well, as the project progresses, the risk of it going wrong diminishes. So in the early stages, maybe you take the chance and say, I'll protect my deposit, but later on when they're building and they've already built phase 1 or something, and I'm comfortable that I don't need that anymore, maybe I make a decision that I don't need a bank guarantee for the rest of the purchase price. So yes, that's up to them. They can do that, and we will facilitate that process. It's just that they have to pay an extra fee to pay for it. Because we're paying that fee to the bank.
Exactly.
So we're just passing the cost on. So then step 4, that's step 3. So step 4 then is actually signing the agreement. Do you want to take that one? Or?
Exactly. I mean, I think that's going to be one of the most exciting parts. They're going to sign the agreement. That is also when this fee is due, and we will be able to. We have this beautiful here right outside of the studio that we're sitting in right now. We have a huge plan of the master plan, and we will put your dot on exactly where you're going to be. And we're also thinking about sharing that later on with the public to see all of the dots slowly appearing.
That would be really encouraging to see that. Also, just in terms of signing the agreement, just from a logistics perspective, you're going to get 2 versions of the contract, right? You're going to get an English one and a Spanish one. The English one is as close as we can to being a reasonable translation of the Spanish agreement. But the idea is you're actually signing a Spanish contract. So when we send the 2 out to you, the English one is for reference, just so that you can kind of see what you're signing. But under Spanish law, we have to do it under Spanish contract. And also under Spanish law, you sign on the back page, but you also sign every other page as well.
It's important to do that.
You don't need to sign it always at the bottom. You can sign it anywhere on that page, but on the final page, you sign at the bottom of the page to say that that's your reservation agreement. And the same thing when we get to the purchase contract in a few months' time. And the reason why we're doing this 2-step process is because we're still confirming the planning permission, we're still confirming the actual site dimensions, and that's going to take an amount of time. And I think we've put in the agreement that it's up to 12 months, I think. So within that 12 months, hopefully a lot quicker, we will then draft a purchase contract for you. So that's step 4. Sorry.
One thing that I also wanted to mention there is it depends a little bit also what house type somebody's choosing. So if it was a villa, for example, we would be able to do that a lot quicker now. So we would be able to do that within a few days, hopefully the same day, depending on how much influx we have of requests. But then if you want to have a modular house, then that would take us a little bit longer, because the process is a similar one but slightly different.
That's good. It's a good point. Yeah, it is different because the planning permission for that hasn't yet been approved. So we've inherited the project from a previous developer where they had planning permission to build villas. So we have planning permission for villas, but we're changing the permission to be able to build modular houses, so that we have to go through all the Spanish steps.
Spanish steps. It does feel like it sometimes, honestly.
Yes, sorry. But we have to go through all the steps to be able to do that. We don't think it's going to be a problem, and the local mayor is very supportive of the whole project, so it's a relatively straightforward process, but it's just going to take time. So that means that the draft contract for the reservation agreement for modular homes is running probably 2 weeks behind the villa one. So we've already sent out some villa ones for the early investors, but the modular homes one will be going out in a week or two, so something like that. Cool.
So hopefully end of June latest that we will be able to send those out.
Okay, and that brings us on to step 5, which is plot preparation and options. So this is what I've kind of already talked about a little bit. So during the reservation agreement and the actual purchase contract, a bunch of stuff is going to happen. Obviously, we're going to clear your site. We're going to be doing topographical surveys on the site, load-bearing tests to make sure that we've got any issues with the site. We're going to be marking
My brain's
out.
already smoking when you say that.
Yeah, no, we're going to be marking out the site. We can be discussing with you, which way you want your house facing. So that will be important for some people,
especially for the people who want the sunset view.
Yeah, no. So, but we can be flexible about that. Given your plot, obviously, we can move the house facing one way or another, depending on. So again, talk to us and we can organise that. And also we're talking about options. So you might want standard tiles, you might want upgraded tiles, you might want a standard kitchen, upgraded kitchen, you might want different qualities of bathrooms or whatever. You might want to go for like a rustic look or a more contemporary look. Yeah. So all of those things can be optioned. Some are no cost options, some are obviously costed options depending on what you go for. And there are some of the plots on the site that are what we call custom plots or exclusive design plots, which means that you can actually work with our architect to actually design a bespoke house. But that's going to be slightly more complicated because we can't give you a price for that until we know exactly what you want. But again, when you complete all the options lists, we can try and give you a really good idea of what the price is going to be. Yeah. And that sort of moves more or less into then step 6, which is the next final bit, which is the actual purchase contract itself. Okay.
Exactly.
Do you want to say anything about that, or?
So with that one, the exciting part is that this is what the banks also want to see. Yeah. So many people have also asked me, so when can we apply for mortgages and loans and all of that? So this is something that you can also then take to your bank, either in your home country or here in Spain. We are in talks with Santander also. So this is then the actual house purchase contract that you will have with all of the specifications that Stephen just talked about in it. And once you sign that and send it back to us, then that would also be the second installment of the payment. So for the villas, that would be 70,000, and for the modular units, again, 10,000 per unit.
Yes. Well, something flew across my mind there. Yes. I've forgotten. Yes. So that's also the point where you have the option of changing from. So the reservation agreement, it's drafted that you are an investor, because that's the only way we can actually proceed at the moment. Once we get to the purchase contract or the final contract, you have the option of converting over to being if you like, a consumer, and so you can then change to like a consumer purchase contract, which then gives you the option of going for mortgages and stuff like that. So it will be slightly different. The process will be slightly different depending on whether you need a mortgage or whether you don't need a mortgage. If you don't need a mortgage, it will be a bit quicker and a bit easier to navigate. If you do need a mortgage, as you said, we will support you to try and do that. But at the end of the day, it's up to each individual to get their mortgages and qualify. We can't guarantee that everyone's going to be successful. It will depend on your credit rating and what you're trying to borrow and all that sort of stuff. But yes, we will get the final contract to you. It's also at that point that I think legally we have to offer a bank guarantee, so that will be factored into the cost of the project as well. And at the moment, we're doing it so that you're in the reservation agreement, you're buying your plot that your house is on.
Yes.
And then you are at the moment being your own developer, but you're contracting to us to build it for you. So it's a kind of a technicality, legal technicality, as how we can do this. But then once we get to the final build contract, it could be that we change that slightly. So watch this space. I'm still sitting down with the legal guys trying to figure out how we do this to make it work for everyone.
Our favorite thing in the modern eco village to say, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
Stay tuned for that.
And that brings us to, I guess, step 7, which is kind of like we're talking about the payments and the construction timeline.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything about that, or?
So one thing that I get asked a lot is then the whole payment due? And the short answer is no. You will pay in phases. So for example, when the framing is up, you will pay 20% and so on. So it is kind of a normal way
plan.
to
So I've structured it so that there are roughly five payments. So one, as you said, is a completion of groundworks is 20%. The completion of the steel works when you erect the frame of the building, that's 20%. When we complete the weathertight structure, so roof, walls and windows and doors and stuff, that's another 20%. And then there's another 20% where we finish the internal fit out, and then there's a final payment which is 15% instead of 20%, and the idea is 15% is when we hand the keys, where it's landscaped, and we hand over the keys. And then you keep 5% back for 6 months. And during that process, if there are any snagging issues, any things that don't work, or cracks, or things that need to be addressed, or things that don't work properly, we address those. And when they're all done, you sign off to say you're accepting the house, and then you pay the final 5%. So
snagging is something that I had to look up.
I have
not been familiar with that.
That's in English. So when things don't work,
yes.
So that's really the payment process. And then there's also the construction timeline. So depending, if you reserve now, the benefit is you're locking in the price for, whenever we build, and that build could be 1, 2, 3 or 4 years from now, because it's a 5-year project. So if you're picking a plot in EBU1, I think, which is the final phase, and I think that's where you are actually. So you're going to be homeless for a couple of years yet.
So maybe I will have a home with some nice members.
Well, I'll have a spare room. No, it's okay. The construction timeline is important too. So phase 1 obviously will be starting as quickly as we can after planning approval, and then each phase after that is typically a year. So phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and phase 5. So each one at this point you could kind of work on being about a year.
We hope it might be quicker, but this is what we're working with right now. Yeah.
So that's the reservation process in a nutshell.
And we are really, really excited to start this process now. And I just want to say one more time to really make sure that we will guide you through this whole process. We will be here. Your questions will be answered. And we're very sure that this is going to be a very exciting step for everybody.
And you're taking FAQs and questions on this weekend, is it?
Exactly. So we will start the process on Friday. So by the time this comes out, I think that's tomorrow. And then on Sunday this week and also Sunday next week, I will be hosting the calls for our normal weekly neighborhood calls, and this will only be FAQs about this process. So everybody feels really safe to do this.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good chat.
Thank you,
and
Stephen.
Nice to see you guys. Nice to talk to you guys again. And if you have any questions, reach out to either Alisa or myself, and we'll do our best to try and support you.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.